All right, let's talk databases. If you've ever found yourself staring at a new project, trying to figure out if you should go with SQL or NoSQL, you know it can be a lot. Well, today we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to give you a clear, simple way to think about it so you can make the right call every time. So let's dive in.
Okay, right off the bat, let's just bust the biggest myth out there. This is not some battle between an old, washed-up technology and the new hotness. It's not a popularity contest. The real story? It's way more interesting and, frankly, a lot more useful than that.
So what this really boils down to is this. The choice has nothing to do with what's trendy. It's a strategic decision that's all about the shape of your data. Are you working with information that fits neatly into rows and columns? Or do you need something that can handle chaos and change? That right there is the real question you need to be asking.
To really wrap our heads around this, we've got to look past the buzzwords. Let's break down the one single concept that truly separates these two completely different philosophies of data.
And that one concept is the schema. Honestly, the best way to think about it is as the architectural blueprint for your data. It's the plan that defines the tables, the columns, the relationships, everything, before you even think about putting data into it. And how a database treats its schema, well, that changes everything.
And this table just lays it out perfectly. You're looking at two totally different ways of thinking. On the SQL side, everything is about structure and making sure the data is perfect using a strict predefined schema. But on the NoSQL side, the top priorities are flexibility and massive scale. So the schema is dynamic. They're just optimized for completely different jobs.
All right, first up, let's dive into the relational powerhouses, SQL databases. These things are built on a solid foundation of structure and absolute, unshakable data integrity.
You know, the way it works is actually pretty elegant. Everything gets organized into these neat tables, kind of like spreadsheets, with columns and rows that you define ahead of time. But the real magic happens when you establish those clear, rock-solid relationships between the different tables.
And this is exactly why SQL has been a cornerstone of software for decades. First, its data integrity is just unmatched. Second, you can run incredibly powerful and complex queries, pulling data together from all over the place using joins. And third, it's ACID compliant, which is the absolute gold standard for making sure your transactions are reliable.
So, where is this an absolute must? Think about banking. When you transfer money, you need to be 100% certain that that transaction either works perfectly or it fails completely and leaves everything exactly as it was. There can't be no in-between. And for that kind of job, SQL is the undisputed champ. No question.
Okay, let's completely switch gears and talk about NoSQL. This is the flexible frontier, a world designed for today's internet, which is just swimming in massive amounts of data, huge variety, and constant rapid change.
Now, this is super important. NoSQL is not one specific thing. It's more like an umbrella term for a whole family of databases. You've got document databases for flexible, JSON-like data, key value stores that are insanely fast for simple lookups, and graph databases that are built to map out complex connections. Each one is a specialized tool for a specialized job.
So what do you get with NoSQL? Well, the perks are pretty obvious. You get blistering performance and the ability to scale out, spreading the load across tons of servers. That flexible schema means you can change your app on the fly without huge, painful database migrations. It's all about speed and being able to adapt.
So where does NoSQL really get to show off? Imagine a social media feed or a big content website. You're dealing with all this messy, unstructured data, text, pictures, videos, you name it, and you need to serve it up to millions of people in the blink of an eye. Yeah, that is a perfect job for NoSQL.
Okay, so we've seen the two philosophies. We get the difference. Now for the part you've been waiting for. How do you actually make the right choice for your project?
And let's be real, this is the question that can literally make or break your application's future. It's not about picking your favorite team, it's about being a smart strategist and doing a little analysis up front.
So here it is, a simple but really powerful checklist. First, what does your data look like? Is it super structured and relational? Second, how are you going to need to scale? Is it about making one server bigger or spreading out across many? And third, how critical is it that every single transaction is perfectly consistent? Answering these three questions will almost always point you in the right direction.
But you want to know a pro tip? In the real world, modern applications almost never use just one. The best strategy is often a hybrid one. Some people call it polyglot persistence. You might use a SQL database for critical stuff like user accounts and payments, but then use a NoSQL database for something like a real-time activity feed.
All right,
This brings us to the big picture. Let's zoom out from just choosing a database for one project and start thinking about a long-term, future-proof strategy for how you handle data in general.
If you take away just one thing from all of this, please let it be this. The whole debate over which database is better is a total waste of time. The real mark of a great engineer or architect is knowing which tool to pull out of the toolbox for the specific job you have in front of you.
And believe me, this world does not stand still. New databases are popping up all the time, and the old ones are constantly adding new features. So, true mastery, the thing that will really future-proof your career, isn't about picking a team. It's about understanding the game from both sides of the field.
So the next time you kick off a new project, don't just grab the database you're most comfortable with. Just pause for a second and ask the hard questions we talked about. Because when your project's success is on the line, the database you choose to trust is one of the most critical decisions you'll ever make.